I want to show you the beaded Mill Hill decorations because these are so lovely and a great thing to hang on your Christmas tree or around your home at Christmas and bring a bit of sparkle to your life. So let me show you what you get in the little kit. You'll get a piece of perforated stitching paper to stitch it onto, and then you'll get an instruction sheet with the chart on it. It's a black and white chart, but really good symbols on it, so you won't have any problems with that, and lots of information in here as well, so make sure you read this before you start. You'll get the stranded cottons that you need to stitch, and you'll get 2 packets of beads, one with the slightly larger beads and one with the smaller beads in it. And also in there you'll have 2 needles. One is your tapestry needle, which you'll need for the cross stitch, and one is your beading needle, which you'll need for the beading, because the tapestry needle won't actually pass through the beads. And that's all you need, except to say you'll need some scissors, a sharp pair of embroidery scissors. And I like to have a piece of felt or a piece of velvet, which is really useful to tip out the beads onto. Stops them moving around, rolling off the table, and just keeps everything where you need it to be. So you start this design by stitching the cross stitch first. You're stitching with predominantly a green thread onto this green paper, so definitely need glasses, good lighting, a magnifier, etc. This really isn't something that I would advise for total beginners because it's quite small and the beadwork is quite intricate. So stitch all of your cross stitch first, following the chart, and you'll need 3 strands of floss in the needle rather than your normal 2. So it says all of this in the instructions, which is really important while you read them. So you do all of your cross stitch first, and you'll leave gaps for the beads according to the chart. Now, we've had lots of questions from people on how you actually attach beads, so I just wanted to show you that quickly. So where you've left a gap for your bead, you'll come up at the base of your cross stitch, and then you pop the bead onto the thread, onto the needle, and then go back down to do one leg of your cross stitch, and that's a half cross stitch with a bead in place, and that's all you need for those larger beads. When you come to the smaller beads, the instructions tell you to use a full cross stitch for these. So I'll show you how to do that. So come up for where you want the cross stitch to be, pick up your tiny weeny little bead, and then go down to make the half cross stitch, and then you're going to come up again to complete the cross stitch, but you've got to go back through the bead. Now this can be a bit tricky and is definitely where you need your glasses or a magnifier or something like that, because it is a little bit fiddly, but there you are. That's now attached very, very securely. Now, if you were struggling with that full cross stitch with the bead, you know, I don't think it would be too bad if you attach them just using a half cross stitch. They probably wouldn't be quite as secure, but I don't think they'd fall off. I think they'd be just fine. So that's all we have to do. So we do all of the cross stitch, then attach all the beads according to the chart, and then finally we can make this beautiful beaded rope to finish off the design. And to do that, literally all we're doing is threading the gold beads onto the needle, onto the thread. You get loads of beads with this, so there's plenty, you don't need to worry about having enough. And all we do is bring them down onto the thread, so you're just threading them, and carry on until you've got the length of the hanging loop that you want. Then your work is complete, and all that's left to do is cut out the design. And take your sharp embroidery scissors and just snip around the paper. Really, you just want to go one hole outside of your stitching, so be careful not to snip through your stitching. You don't want to have done all that work and then cut through it. So really, really carefully cut around one hole from the edge, and then your design is complete. Now, there's only one thing that's the problem with this, and that the back of the work is not very neat in my case. Actually, it was quite neat until I did the beading, and then it all went horribly wrong, and I'm quite ashamed, and I wouldn't want to hang that on my Christmas tree and have it twizzle round and everybody to see what a mess I've made at the back. So there are 2 options here. You could either stitch another one exactly the same or different and then put them together and then whip stitch around the edge so that your decoration is then effectively double-sided. Whip stitch is just a sort of over sewing stitch, and in fact I think there's even a diagram in the instructions on how to do that stitch. Or if, like me, you perhaps don't want to sew one straight away immediately as you finish, you don't want to have to sew two, I would just get a piece of felt and lay it down on the felt, draw around the shape with a pen, and then cut that out just inside the pen line so you're not seeing that pen line. And then use just a bit of glue on the back of there, not too much glue, you don't want it to seep through and start showing through onto your stitching. So just a light application of glue on there, and then stick it down, trim around the edge, trim off any excess that's showing from the front side, and you'd have a beautiful decoration with the back disguised so nobody can see your mess. You probably don't make a mess like that, but I've made a right mess of mine. So that's probably what I'd do, and then it would be all ready to hang up for Christmas. And there are so many different designs and styles in this range. You've got Santas, all sorts of things. So have a look at the range and see if you enjoy stitching one too.